Have you ever seen a raked Jeep Grand Cherokee? Well, you're about to today. What's up, modifiers? Today we're putting a lift kit and wheels on this turbo diesel WK. So as you can see, we have a sea of parts going on right here, starting with our lower control arms down there, our seat boots, all the way to our Bilstein shocks of choice. We've even got lift blocks for this thing, for the springs, because we're not going to do the springs, one of the few things we're not going to touch, all the way to new ball joints, to the uppers, the fronts, just boots, spacers for the new wheels. So to start with, we've taken the fuse box out along with some other control modules underneath it, just so we can get to the bolts for the shocks up front, even though we're going to start with the back. Also along over there, we have the coolant bottle out. As for the back of this Jeep, guys, we've got it all lifted up. As I mentioned, we're doing the back first. We've got the diff lifted up right now because this is a solid rear in the rear end, so we're basically compressing the springs to get everything loose, and then once we get everything loose, we're just going to drop it down and slip those spacer blocks in there. But as far as getting everything loose, we've already got the shock out, which you saw goes right here down to there. And then also we've got the sway bar end links out, which is just a bolt there, nothing complicated. And one last thing, don't forget your track bar right there, which can be taken out either on this side or the other. But we've kind of got the axle lifted or lowered all the way down as much as we can go with these brake lines attached. We thought we could maybe do it leaving them on, but we're going to have to pull them off here and hang them up. Okay guys, so we've run into problem number 2. That upper drag link right there is resting on top of the gas tank, and it won't go any further down, nor would you really want to. And we need to go down more to get this spring out. Now we could use a spring compressor, or we can just take those 2 bolts loose, and that'll let us lower it down even more. So I think that's the way we're going to go. So problem number 2, upper drag link. And just like that, we have the spring out, and we also have the 2 seats. Now we just got to get the bump stop out. That's pretty deteriorated, as you can see. And then we can do a little bit of cleaning and start the reassembly process for this side. Go ahead.
You can let it go down against the axle, I guess. Just all you gotta do is just hold it in position.
So everything's going back in really smoothly, surprisingly. Only thing we have to do now is get the track bar in the back there back on. We've got that upper track bar put back on, and then the caliper, and last but not least, the shock as well. And then, you know, put the wheels on. So the back's going pretty smooth. And oh yeah, the sway bar end link. Right now, he's actually over there just grinding down the bolt for the rear track bar with a wire wheel, just because it was a little crusty. I don't think I mentioned it, but this lift is a 2-inch lift, so we really didn't go for replacing the spring, just kind of like the boots and the bump stops like you've seen.
I getting it? Oh yeah, thank you. Oh, this is more forgiving than the other side. The other side was making bad noises. It was creaking. Go forward. Pull it up. Are you pushing?
Yeah.
Push some more. This is gonna be tough. Keep her right there. Oh yeah, keep her right there. Oh yeah.
Okay guys, and just like that, everything's in. Now, as you saw just a while ago, we were having problems with that rear track bar, getting it bolted in on this side. So what we ended up doing was actually unbolting it on the other side, which is a little bit lower and easier to get to, and bringing it over, bolting it in here, and then going over there with the jack, and then kind of like an ice pick tool to kind of get it over. And then also on top of that, this is kind of the tricky part. I had to go over there while somebody else had the bolt lined up and push this axle over this way, with my back to the wall, and had to put a pretty good, pressure on it to get it to slide this way, to get the hole lined up. But we got it nonetheless, and everything looks to be lined up correctly. Other than that, from there we went on and we put the shocks in before the track bar, actually, just so we could drop the axle enough to get the weight off of it to actually push it over. So the shocks are all in. They look great, as you can see, the blue and yellow mill seams. And then from there, we just put on the simple stuff like the calipers. No big deal there. And then, of course, your sway bar end links. Now, with all that stuff done, the only thing left to do is to get the new wheels on here. But first and foremost, we have to get the spacers on here. And we don't need the spacers for the back, really, per se. But we're going to be running spacers up front, so it would only look right if we had them in the back. With the wheel spacers, though, we did run into something that's noteworthy, that's kind of a big problem. With these wheel spacers, we thought that these lug nuts on them would fit right onto our studs that are already there, because, the spacer goes right on like so, like that. And we thought, the ones that come on it go right here. But, as you can see, these are way too big. So it turns out the studs on these spacers are larger than our OEM studs on the hub itself. So, I mean, we could use the stock lug nuts and run them down, on top, but that really is not going to work, because you don't want to do that. And also, our lug nuts have a lot of never sees on them, and we're supposed to be putting Loctite. So our solution was, we found an auto parts store that had 20 of these. These are like the ones on here, but unlike those, they're actually the right size. So that's one thing to note, is when you're doing this and you buy these spacers, don't think you're going to be able to use your lug nuts, because you're not on the outside, because these are bigger, and then also right here, these are smaller. So that's something to definitely check on when you're doing this. Boom, just like that, guys. This thing is back on the ground. No jacks under it. You see we got those Bilsteins in there peeking out. The blue looks awesome. These wheels, I mean, it's kind of hard to see because we're still in the garage right now, but this thing's a little bit higher. I mean, I'll try to show you guys down the side. I mean, the front's raked right now because the front was always lower anyway, but these wheels on here look awesome. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the axle is shifted a little bit this way, which kind of makes sense back when I told you guys I had to kind of use my feet to press it over to get the track bar lined up. But with that, we're probably going to need an adjustable track bar, which we weren't supposed to need, according to people that's done this before on the forums. But hey, you know, you live and you learn, and that's something we're definitely going to get to accommodate shifting the axle back that way. Okay, guys, with that said, I'm going to cut the video right here because we're kind of at a stopping point. We're going to regroup and kind of clean up a little bit to get ready to do the front. The front's going to be a lot more involved. There's a lot more complicated stuff up there. It's the the independent front suspension, so it's not as easy as just a solid rear axle throwing some blocks and shocks on it. So get ready for the video coming out with that. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. I'll see you